just let the moon rise aglow, 'cause you'll drive through the night while I'm tucked in so tight. So may I kiss your cheek before you go? May I kiss your cheek? May I softly speak? May I kiss your cheek before you go?
Where did that come from?
That song I wrote after I met a cute man at a bar for 10 minutes and he drove off. And I went home and wrote that song.
How wonderful.
That's what I do.
What I find interesting about it is that it's like art. You know, like art you can look at and someone can look at and go, oh yes, that means this to me and that means this to me.
Sure.
I was watching as you were doing this. I was running the music video in my head and you were at the bed of the hospice, at a hospice, as
Wow.
you were saying goodbye.
That's beautiful.
And it was just, it really touched me.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Love that.
Now, you came to Austin in 2010,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Very end of
Okay,
2010.
I love origin stories. Why would you, and what was it that drew you here, and who was Shawnee Kilgore 2 weeks before you made that
Oh
decision?
gosh. Wow. She was an emotional mess.
You were in California.
Yes, yeah. So I moved, I grew up in Northwest Washington, up in Bellingham, and I was there for a long time. We moved up there to the foothills of Mount Baker when I was 5 years old. And yeah, so I grew up in out in the county.
Yes.
So my my high school had, I won't say one of the nicknames, but one of them was Cow Pie High, and
Yeah.
I'll leave the other one out. And yeah, and Bellingham was kind of the big city, so when I turned 18, I moved there, and yeah, was there for a while. So I played my first open mic when I was 15, and I think I had
What did
turquoise
that do?
hair
What
at
was
the
that
time.
like? What was that like? All right, what year was that? What year were you 15?
15, what, 95?
Right.
95,
So the
yeah.
the internet had just started. We just started. I mean, we were still in the Walkman era.
I
mean,
never
we-
even had a Walkman.
But we were still in,
But
as
yes.
we were seeing in the music industry, it still hadn't
Yeah.
gone disrupted by the,
Right, I know.
right?
I
So-
don't think so.
Yeah, so anyway, so what were you, tell me about what was going on then.
Yeah, just yeah, acoustic guitar. I got into music simply because I was in love with Daniel Johns, was the frontman of the Australian rock band Silverchair.
Yeah.
When I was 14, they were 16. And I feel like I was kind of like the leader of a movement. Like I was in love with him way before.
Yeah.
Way before he was like a pinup, model of the rock scene. But anyway, I'm not bitter. No. So yeah, it was one of those teenage things, and pretty serious. I was actually trying to figure out how to get to Australia or Toronto or wherever he happened to be playing or living. Or
You were
know.
destined.
I was, yes. You could have said desperate. That would have been true too. So yeah, so I just knew my life would be completely meaningless unless we got married, and we were never going to get married if he didn't know who I was. So I had to get famous. So here I'm working backwards here. And for some ridiculous reason, I chose being a folk singer. But my mom had a guitar at the house, and it seemed like just as good
Now,
path as any other.
Now, when you talk folk singers, because I come out of the 50s and 60s, where the folk singers, we're talking Baez and we're talking Dylan. We're talking about
Right.
a lot of the different times out of there. Did
Yeah.
your mother or parents or grandparents introduce you to that kind of music?
Sort of, yeah. My dad, I kind of got like the sort of Enya spiritual kind of side from my mom, and then kind of the Dylan, Traveling Wilburys, Van Morrison kind of stuff from my dad.
Cool.
So yeah, there was that. There was that sort of introduction, but that never. I was never inspired, actually musically, until I came across Ani DeFranco when I was 14. And she calls herself a folk singer. She's like the folk singer, but a little different than the traditional. But yeah, she was just out there just kicking butt, and started her own record label when she was 20 so that she could put out records the way she wanted to and the music that she wanted to make. And just musically, I was just astounded by what she was doing, and I just immediately set out at that point. It's like, well, if this is my path to get famous, I might as well make it count. So yeah, I just jumped in writing songs because I wanted to do what she did. So rather
Did you keep a notebook? Do you
so many notebooks. Yeah.
So they just work that way? Do you still have them? Do you get to go back and over them and pull them out?
I still have, yes, almost every. Yeah, my first real journal I kind of started when I was 14 or 15. It was one that my dad had left like half finished, so I just flipped over the book and just started filling in the rest of those pages. So yeah, I think my first entry, I was 15 years old on an airplane going to California or something like that, and I was writing about how awkward it was to have someone sitting next to me and to like hoping they didn't look over and see my brain on the page. But
exactly. Did you? So you're in California right before you make the decision.
Right before, yes, right, yeah.
And you were doing what in California?
So, yes, I got very
right before
sidetracked.
2010.
Right before 2010. So I left Bellingham because everybody has to leave Bellingham at some point, even though it's very difficult to do.
Leaving,
it's kind of
exactly. There's a magnetic pull,
it's a vortex,
right?
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really needed to prove to myself that I could do it, even though it was the scariest thing in the world. So I just left on kind of an open-ended road trip, and I went and visited some friends in Northern California, and then stumbled across a music conference down in LA that I thought maybe I could go down to that. So I went there, and then decided to come to Austin only because a bunch of people had I felt like the universe was just telling me, go to Austin, but it didn't feel like the universe talking. It felt like a bunch of people who had never been to Austin who were saying, oh, there's this great music festival, you got to go there.
Yeah.
And it just felt like you don't know what you're talking about. So I literally drove to Austin all the way from LA to make the universe stop sending people to me to tell me to go there because I had been there and then I had left. And yeah, one thing led to another, and that was almost 9 years ago. So.
Yeah.
Well, I can sort of describe the scene of arriving. I didn't mean to drive all night. I told my mom I wouldn't drive all night, but I did. And I was going off of Google directions that I had handwritten on like a yellow legal pad before I left LA. So I had no idea what any of these roads were. I just wrote down all the information. And so I found myself, I have no clue where I was, but I was on these long like back roads stretching out for like 50, 55, 60 miles at a time, and the road signs weren't very good, and it's the middle of the night. I have no cell service. I mean, I don't know who I would call anyway, but so I finally, after driving all night, just as the sun was sort of starting to come up, it hadn't crested over the horizon yet, I finally saw a sign that said Austin, like 70 miles or something like that. And I was just so relieved and so happy. And I had been listening to Eliza Gilkison on the way, and her song called The Coast. I just love that song. And that's what was playing when I finally saw this sign. And so I pulled my car over, and there was no one around. And I just turned up that song and just left the door open and just kind of wandered out into this sort of new world. You know, it was just like scrub brush. You know, I couldn't see anything yet, but I just felt something, and it was warm. I was definitely drawn to the warmth and the sunshine of the place. And
Well, so you come here. Have you made your first album yet?
yeah, I was two albums in when I came.
Two albums in, so you
EP
come in, and so how do you get and introduce yourself in the scene? I mean, one of the things that I'm interested
I don't know.
how did that happen? What did you do? Did you walk into a bar and go, you know, I'm a singer too, and I want to get in? What happened?
Well, I hunkered down and I started writing, which was kind of cool. I had happenstance led me to 6 weeks in a house.
Happenstance.
House
Yes,
sitting,
exactly.
yes.
That old happenstance.
Yeah.
Yes, we know it well.
So that was great. So I was writing, really kind of just felt like I was sort of finding my voice and exploring with that. And I went to see the only two people that I knew here was Elise Black and Danny Schmidt. And Elise, that's whose house I was staying at while they were out of town. And Danny had a show at Flipnotics, probably a couple weeks maybe after I got there. So I got like the most lost in the world trying to find Flipnotics off of 2220. I don't know. I was so confused. Still writing down directions off of Google Maps. Yeah. So yeah, I went to that show at Flips and met some people there, and that was great. And it was kind of that spark of like, cool, I play music too. I can do this. But the first music I played here, it was on New Year's Day, and I went down to the pedestrian bridge over Lady Bird Lake and played on the pedestrian bridge for a couple hours. And it was warm. It's like, this is New Year's Day,
I know, and
I'm
you're
in
going,
a t-shirt.
What is going on?
I am in heaven. So, yeah.
And you continue on the route. Now, one of the things that I want to, because and it's so funny because I did not connect to you. One of my heroes is Joss Whedon, but I did not connect to you. I had no idea that you had worked with Joss Whedon when I heard of you.
Yeah.
Because I came through Rosalinda is the one that told me, I know this folk singer that you think would be great to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I got to you. Then come to find out that you worked with one of what I consider to be a Shakespeare. They're going to go down in history as this is what Shakespeare looked like had he incarnated at this time.
Right.
You know, I mean, he's that powerful.
Yeah.
Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Marvel, on and on. What happened?
What the heck happened? I was running a Kickstarter campaign for my last full-length album in 2014, and a couple weeks in, I got a pledge from that name, and up until that point, I had to keep asking. Like, people would talk about him, my sweetie and his family, and you know, and every time I'd have to be like, "Who's that again?" And then they'd tell me, I'd be like, "Oh, of course." I just like kept forgetting. And so this pledge came in, and I, for the last time, wrote to my partner. I was like, "Wait, who is that? Wait, is that who I think it is?" So, you know, I mean, nothing to do but wait until the end of the campaign. And so I emailed him, and his reward was a personalized song written for him. So, you know, emailed and said thank you and asked, you know, how he wanted to go about with that and if he had ideas. And so, yeah, so he gave me back some, you know, some fodder to work with. And during that time, he was filming Avengers 2 and in some country or another. I never really knew. He had gotten the song that was in my Kickstarter video stuck in his head, and it had sort of, I don't know what the word is, diverted off into his own lyrics for that. So he kind of offered those to me to see if I wanted to put music to them, since I'd helped inspired, you know, and all that. So I said yes, and yeah, I guess so.
Sure,
So he sent over the lyrics to Big Giant Me, and And I was relieved that I liked them so much. That's a big thing to say, but I am a super word. I'm so particular. And I was like, what if? Like, I love his work, but what if I don't like the words that he sends me? And it's like, oh, geez, that's the most adorable thing I've ever read. So, the next day, I think within 24 hours, they sent him back the song as it stayed pretty much. And that was our first single. And I didn't actually know, I still didn't know what he looked like at the point that we had written a whole song together. And finally about a month into our friendship, it's like, all right, I think this is the night. I'm gonna look him up on YouTube. And I saw his the Equality Now speech that he'd made a year prior or something. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my new friend. He's so cool. And he is. He's just an incredible human being. And I'm extremely lucky to have worked with him, but also to call him one of my dearest friends. It's pretty. It's
one of
amazing.
this is the thing, because we were talking about before when we talked on the phone, and that we have to, as artists, find ways to make livings. We wait tables, tend bar, do the things
Paint
that there
houses,
are, paint
yeah,
houses,
yeah.
whatever it is. I mean, that's all part. But to actually to be a living, working artist in 2019 and beyond, we actually have to create it and have to be able to
That's
go.
part of the creativity, yeah.
And using the law of large numbers, assuming that there are approximately 7 billion people on the planet and smartphones are everywhere, a tiny, tiny portion who would just absolutely swoon about Shawnee, Kilgore, and want to support and want to continue to do that. And how do you reach them? And you found a way to do that.
Yes. Yes. Well, one of the.
So explain,
many.
because you're teaching me about this, and I've now joined,
Sure.
so I'm part of the
Yeah.
deal.
Awesome. So Patreon is a site that I joined onto for a little over 4 years ago, and it's just kind of a direct fan to art. It's like Kickstarter, but it's just an ongoing pledge of a much smaller amount. So I was writing a song a week, and the only people that were hearing them at that point were the people in my songwriting groups that were online, and I thought that was kind of a shame. So I signed on and I said, hey, I write a song a week. I'm going to be posting a new song every week. And if you want to give me $1 per song that I post, or $2 or $5 or whatever it is, here's what I'm doing. And you can do that. And so people have signed on, and I now have an audience for all these songs that I'm writing every week. And it's an amazing, it's kind of like a paycheck that I can count on every month.
Exactly.
I have a lot of discipline when it comes to creativity, and I'm very grateful that that's kind of one area of my life that I am extremely kind to myself.
Wonderful.
Only in that I never censor. I just never, ever censor. And, 5.5 years ago, I signed on to this writing a song a week thing, and and it might not actually be a kindness to myself that I have not let myself stop. It's definitely my ego screaming at me like, oh, heck no,
Sure.
you can't stop now. We will never let you forget that. But in that, I let whatever comes out come out, and I never say, oh, this is bad, or this is not good enough, or
Wonderful.
Most of them are not good enough to go on an album or play on a stage, but that's beside the point, and that's not why I write. I write because.
When do you know that something is something that has a? I know that when I get a chance to write some comedy, or I get a chance to write some stuff, and I go, oh, that really resonates, and I can feel it. How does it?
Yeah.
Does this work the same way with music writing?
Yeah, sure. It's just a spark that I actually want to play it and actually want people to hear it, and and I have enough chances with performing that I can take something out on a stage and try it out. And sometimes that song that I opened up with was sort of a surprise, like I didn't know it was that. I just liked it because of the situation that it pertained to, and I was very pleased with myself for writing a song that quickly. But lyrically, it's not that poetic. It's not that in depth, and that's usually what I feel the best about, is that I've created some sort of unusual poetry or whatnot, and so sometimes it's the simplest songs that I just try to hide away, because there's nothing to hide behind with a simple song. But
Yeah.
but if I play something and people tell me that they like it, I will listen to that, unless I hate it. But usually I don't disagree that
Sure.
much with an audience.
Do you get all the way, or do you have a full breadth of liking to the hip hop and all the way to classical? Do you have a full range of appreciation for music?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't seek a lot of music out. I actually rarely listen to anything that's not live.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of one of the ways that I just leaving that space and that quiet for ideas to come and for sparks to come. Or if someone else puts on music and I didn't choose it, that's also great. But if I make the decision, I'm going to put on this album right now, then I feel somewhat responsible for, did I make the right choice? Is this the right thing? It almost feels like I'm trying to manipulate my
Exactly.
surroundings or something like that. I've driven across the country several times just in silence, just choosing not to listen to anything. But yes, I definitely appreciate so much, whatever. I've been to hip hop shows. I've been to, classical performances, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all.
It is just this entire idea of why is it that we as human beings created music?
Right.
What was that?
Right.
What was that? Because it appears to be very much part of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cultures, handed down
I
from
was
the
talking.
beginning
I
of-
was talking with Jenna before the show about the show. We did a show with Kaya Hardwick, and at the end. And at the end, what we had was she had a song about coyotes, and I was howling. I started howling
Yeah.
at the end because it just felt
Yeah.
very much as
Yeah.
part of it, and that's singing.
Right. Absolutely. That's your
that's
voice.
part of
Yeah.
what. So that has to be part of our
Very
DNA.
primal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels like one of the things. Can you think of something else that you would like to play us out with? Also,
Sure,
can you?
yeah.
Would you play something else
Yeah,
out
yeah.
toward the end? Because I've just not had
Definitely.
enough today, and
Yes.
and I want to hear a little more, if you would, please.
So this one that I want to do is a song about having writer's block. It did happen to me one time.
Good.
And I reached out to Facebook because I was in a panic,
Mm-hmm.
and people had all sorts of ideas for me. I had so many comments on that thread. It was wonderful, and
Yes.
several people said that I should write about having writer's block. So
Please.
yes, so
Help
it's
us.
called "At the Water's Edge." I broke the silence and I broke the dawn. It's just the wrong side of the rider that you woke upon. I will be coming back, I will be coming strong. I held the pages and I held the pen. I held the broken heart that couldn't seem to bleed again. I'm coming empty, but I'm coming in. I've been drinking at the water's edge, prayed for thunder in the watershed, dreamed a bridge across the riverbed. When it dried, I bled. I'd pray for anything but silence in the mouths of birds. It's more than I expect, it's more than I deserve. Maybe I've taken more than mine. Maybe I'm here taking shots of someone else's wine. My breath is coming back, gasping line by line. I've been drinking at the water's edge, prayed for thunder in the watershed, dreamed a bridge across the riverbed. When it dried, I bled. Ooh, I've been drinking at the water's edge, prayed for thunder in the watershed, dreamed a bridge across the riverbed. When it dried, I bled.
What fun.